Welcome everybody to Tuesday Stall Talk. I'm your host, Kendra Dickson. You are in for an amazing day. If you are a horse-owning dog lover, today's your day at Stall Talk. I love doing Stall Talk every Tuesday at noon. We are on episode 19. Today's show is brought to us by lifeenthusiast.com for all of your question marks about your health. If you know you're not feeling your best, I would definitely recommend you look up our co-host, Martin Patella. We're going to drop a link in this stream so that you can find access to his website. He has an amazing diagnostic tool where he can help you really get to the root reasons of why you don't feel your best. And he's all about health and nutrition. All right, so I have a story to tell. Story time at Stall Talk. We did a small group clinic over the weekend, and it was limited to only 5 riders. We started allowing people to drive in late on Thursday. And our guest speaker today, she was one of our riders in the small group clinic. It was a 2-day mastermind transformation. Jake Whitman was here. He's a performance farrier. He was putting new shoes on horses. Cheryl Sawyer was here. She's a WPRA barrel racer and an equine dentist. She was making sure that every horse had a level set of teeth with a bit seat and that they were comfortable in their face. And we did a tune-up on barrels. And our guest speaker today drives in. It was after dark. I walk out to meet her at her trailer, and it was our first time to meet in person. So I went to stick out my hand and say, "Hello, I'm Kendra." And Julie, you immediately grabbed me in a bear hug and you said, "I'm so excited to be here." And that made me feel so good. Julie Castaneda, I'm excited you're here.
Well, I'm excited to be here, and I just know that was a divine connection. Like, I know.
Yes, and it's cool. Like, I immediately, as I started to listen to you talk and share your story throughout the weekend, I was like, oh wow, something's happening here. We have an opportunity to learn from an expert in your field, and learn more about our own relationship with horses. And I just started reading your book, Dog Church.
Oh. Well, I like it.
It gets me in the feels. I'm not moved to tears or strong emotion very often, but in the first 3 pages, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is deep.
Wow, good. I'm so glad. I didn't write a book. I wrote 52 short stories in 52 weeks. And I didn't write it for anybody else but my clients who demanded to have it in print. They were stories that I just put on Facebook as a Sunday post. So it always tickles me, just fills me with joy when someone who is not a dog day afternoon client reads the book and gets it. Like, it means something. And I just think God knew what he was doing, because it was not my intention at all.
It's like, I mean, I could just imagine sitting there with you as the sun comes up and you talked about the birds. I know that sound here at my house, the bullfrogs, welcome back, guys. And your little dogs all ready to go. They're excited to go jump in the pond. And that's very easy for us to relate to. I personally think most horse owners are also dog owners. Do you find that to be true?
I believe that is true. Yeah. Yeah. Not all dog owners are horse owners, but almost all horse owners are dog owners.
I wonder why that is. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I just think it's a different kind of connection, but it is, well, I mean, when we have horses, we tend to want to have a dog that works. So that's easy. But I do think that those of us who want a relationship with animals have dogs. And then there's just a different kind of relationship we get when we also have horses. So they go hand in hand.
All right. So we're going to dig right in, Martin. It's going to be a great week. And I'm excited to hear what you have to connect it all together as we kind of get going here. So I titled this week's Stall Talk, "Does Your Dog Listen Better Than Your Horse?" It happens. I don't know why there seems to be a stigma around training And it seems like even with parenting, there's kind of a soft parenting trend these days. And I certainly see it with horses. And it was interesting watching the dynamics over the weekend, even in our small group, just establishing some respect on the ground with the horse through posture and through body language. You could see that horse respond differently and become more attentive and start to be more, I hate to use the word obedient, but they were quicker to respond correctly. Is that the same with dogs? Do people seem to struggle with, am I being too assertive? Am I being too soft? How do you find that balance?
In my field, what tends to happen today is the other end of the spectrum. So, for example, 30 years ago, when I really stepped into this field full time, not doing anything else, I just went with my jam. It was mostly punishment based. And it was, especially in the Midwest, it was very hard to get my dog owning clients to walk away from shock collars, choke chain collars, just any sort of training tool in general, and think more about relationship and building a balanced relationship with your dog, because we were wanting to bring them into the house, right? We weren't throwing them in the backyard like we were prior to 30 years ago. So now we want them in the house. We want them to be a family member. They're sleeping with us. They're eating with us. We're sharing all of our spaces. They're traveling with us. And yet we're not bringing ourselves into the relationship. And now we've gone to the other end of the spectrum where the dog hogs the bed. I hear more and more people come in. This morning, a lady came in about, she slept on the couch last night, so she didn't get a good night's sleep. And it's because she has 4 dogs and the dogs took the bed. And we say it like it's so normal and cute and almost funny. But when I hear that and I see the behavior of the dog, and I know she brings her dogs so that we can create better behavior, I want to say, this is the problem. This is the problem. We are putting human feelings onto animals and creating problems. And then we want the dog's problem to be fixed when it's really a human problem that I'm having to track down. And as we all know, as trainers, we can't always get the owner to see that part of it.
Yeah, I'd like to butt in with this. Both dogs and horses have a fairly hierarchical society. And if you look at wolves or wild horses or Mustangs, there's always the breeding couple, or in horses, it's going to be the lead stallion, and he'll be breeding many. And it's very hierarchical. So when you describe this bed situation, who's the alpha in that group?
Oh, it's certainly the dog.
Exactly the point, right? Like, you need to establish who the alpha is in the household.
Definitely, we need to have boundaries. And I think that's true in all of our relationships. And this past weekend with Kendra, it just became very evident looking at it through my dog trainer's lens and the relationships, including myself. Kendra was calling me out on things, and I'm thinking, I know better than this. And just watching some of the other riders to say, I have great boundaries with my dogs, no problem at all. But I realized, wow, I really don't set clear communication with my horse. And I changed. I was able to see it for my own self and make the appropriate changes that I needed to make.
You're hitting really strong bullseyes, and we're 10 minutes in. So we have an opportunity to really help educate people and explain and give them permission and support through Stall High, through our online clinics, our online mentor program, when we have an opportunity to have an event. So you said something which is just what we battle with every day. We assign human feelings onto an animal, our horse, because we love them. And what you said about 30 years ago, the shift, that's definitely happened in the horse world. because 30 years ago we didn't have all this fancy stuff, and now we're dressing dogs and pushing them in strollers, and we have fancy clothes for our horses and therapies and this and that, and that's great. But like you said, we projected our emotion onto it, and I really don't think that's fair. We personally, when we do that and we don't communicate the relationship efficiently, effectively, and what we need from the relationship, it is not the horse's fault. And we cannot feel bad when they're not able to follow the instruction. When they're not able to perform as we expect, we have to take responsibility that there was something missing. It's not that anything is wrong per se, but something is missing in our relationship and in the communication that we need to go back, locate it. And then I think people do need support. There seems to be a stigma around assertive training.
Yeah, I think it's that we need a bigger toolbox, right? In dog training, we've done a great job of, in my toolbox, I have not thrown away the need for a shock collar or prong collar or any training tool. They're all in my box. I can pull one out anytime I need to. I think where punishment gets us in trouble is when we repeat a punishment over and over again, expecting that different result, and we don't get it. And when you do that, it's abuse. But to make a strong correction that lets our horse know, not now, that doesn't happen, then it's done. And you don't have to just beat on them or, just back them off. It's like, do it and get it done and be consistent from that point on. And they want a leader. And I tell my clients, she'll say, I love my dogs. I just love them. And I'm like, you're going to love them to death. And what I mean by that is you're going to end up with a dog that's so terrible. You're going to take it to the shelter and it's not going to be adoptable. And therefore it's going to be euthanized. But it was born genetically ready for some type of job. And somewhere along the way, we made it complicated. And when we do that, there's only one suffering there, and that's the dog.
I preach, lady. I 100% agree. I've been saying at Stall High the past couple of years, riders, horse owners, trainers, even pro trainers seem to be talking out of both sides of their mouth. I love my horse. I love my horse. I buy him all the great things. He has the best feed and shavings and a pretty trailer and all this great stuff so he doesn't hurt. All the while, if we could poll and ask that horse if they could speak English, the horses don't feel loved. That's not really what they want. They would rather have release and relief, and they would rather have a clear communication and a clear relationship. I think it's contradictory to say we love our horse, but our hands are abusive. And a lot of people, what I consider abuse, the rest of the world, horse world, seems to applaud.
What's funny though, when you bring in that word love, we don't even know what that is. So many of us are in toxic relationships that are not love. They're codependent emotionally, they're abusive and toxic. And that can be a pattern in someone's life. Unless you get in there and you start digging deep within yourself, you're going to take that with you. So I have a lot of childhood trauma growing up with a narcissistic parent. And it's work that I have had to do since I was 17 years old, working through all of that. But I still have a tendency to want to carry some of those things into the next relationship instead of putting my needs on that. Right. So we hear riders talk about, he's so sweet and he's so charming and I just love him. Well, we could say that about a toxic relationship with a human, with a partner. They tend to be very charming, right? The abuser tends to be charming. We want to hide the behavior and make excuses for it. So we don't come clean with it. And we make excuses. Well, he's just this. In dogs, it's, well, he was traumatized. I think he was dumped. And I can't this or that. And it's like, okay, he's in the best possible place he could be right now. He's no longer dumped. He's no longer abused. That's in the past. And your dog has moved forward. You're stuck in his past and you weren't even there.
Oh
right?
my gosh. This is so strong. People say this all the time. I hear it over and over and over. He was abused. Oh, this horse was abused.
Yep. You know what? You're holding there with that mentality, with not being able to lay down your boundaries. You are holding that horse in a place he doesn't want to be. He wants to move on with you. He wants to feel your benevolent leadership. You setting those boundaries, saying, this is where we live. This is the framework for where we live. And everything in this framework, you are safe. Your job is to help me do, whatever your job is, but also to keep me safe. We're going to keep each other safe. But you got to have the boundaries. Same as like my girls going into relationships, they're getting married. I don't say, does he make you happy? I say, does he allow you to be happy? Because it's two different things. I don't want my girls looking for somebody who makes them happy. I want my children to be happy and be in a relationship with someone who's allowing them to be happy, to express that. And so when you take that to your barn and you think about your horses, it's like, you want to be happy. Don't put the responsibility of your happiness on a horse or a dog.
Rewind, say that again.
Don't put your need for happiness on a horse or a dog. That is a heavy responsibility for a human to take on, let alone an animal who doesn't understand your language. But we do it all the time. We go out there with whatever. And, we were talking, excuse me, over the weekend about dogs will take on, they're very good at it. They will take on your emotion and it almost doesn't affect them. I mean, not every dog, because not every dog's designed to be a therapy dog, a seeing eye dog, or an assistance dog, but they are very good at taking that on and you'll never see it again. They will come and sit by you and you can cry your tears. And when you're done crying, that dog is ready to take ball. Like he's ready to go do whatever. You can come home from a horrible day at work and your dog doesn't say, whoa, hold on. Don't bring that energy over here. No, he's just happy to see you. He'll take you in whatever frame of mind you're in. But your horse goes, hold on. We have something going on here that, I don't want. You need to fix that. And that's why they make great therapy type animals. When we do equine assisted therapy, the horse isn't going to swallow that. He is going to have body language that tells the therapist or tells the handler who will tell the therapist exactly what is happening in that relationship. He's not going to hide it. Now, if you get them really, really shut down, they stop talking because there's nobody's listening. But that's what really makes them great, is that they're going to mirror right back to you what you're bringing to the table.
Wow. I think we could do a whole series on that. Has your horse shut down? Does your horse disassociate?
Oh, right.
And
right.
They're not talking because no one's listened to them. And I see an epidemic. It's very sad. I physically get sick at my stomach to go to any horse event and see horsemanship applauded. And it's being handed down from generation to generation to generation. And it's just because we don't have the education yet, but Stall High, we're on a mission to educate and to change things. And
write this down.
Yes, ma'am.
The silent screaming of body language.
There you go.
That's what I see, because that's the way I'm trained, right? And I'm learning more and more as I study the silent screaming of equine body language. Dogs, it's a second language to me, and I want it to be a second language in the equine world as well. But it is, I go to events and I watch, and nobody is listening to the horse. I go to my horse's stall and I ask them to come forward. Would you want to work today? Now, sometimes there's no choice. Like at this weekend, he was tired and he could have just as well stayed at the back of the stall. And it's like, but I'm so sorry. We got to go do it. Mama paid a lot of money for this. We're going to go. And so he has to do it, and he did it, and he was great about it. But I do ask, because when the answer is, I don't think so, my approach will be different. But I will still have my clear boundaries, right?
Mhm.
I just am going to understand that he's coming from a place of tired. He's going to be a little woke up. Then we went out to the refinement pen, and he woke up real quick. And suddenly he was ready to do his job. But we don't typically do that. We will be on our phones, on with our headsets on. We go in, we halter, we lead him out, and we never asked a question. And the ears were working, and the facial expressions, the tightness of the muzzle, the way they hold and carry their bodies. That's the communication.
Yeah, you're going to miss it. We did have we had a lot of in-depth, that's what it was about, a 2-day transformation clinic, a mastermind. We got into some deep conversation, even at dinner the other night at Ernesto's. And that was our that's after day 1 of the clinic. And I heard you say something about, that's trauma bonding. And I was like, whoa, we don't use that word in the horse industry enough. I think that's gonna alarm people, and they might be taken aback, but that is what's happening. What do you mean by that? You've kind of already like segued into it, but how are people trauma bonding with a horse or an animal? And like you said, that's not fair.
The thing about trauma bonding for real, like in the industry as a term. So that was, I think it was a counselor, Patrick Carnes, came up with that term. And it truly is more about an abuser and the abused. And it's really about that kind of relationship. And then there's stress bonding, which I typically will use in the animal world, stress bonding. And that comes from the rabbit industry, where if you had rabbits that weren't getting along, you'd put them in a crate, spin them around for a while on a slick floor, and they come out stressed out, but comforting each other. And sometimes that works for a long time, and sometimes it doesn't. We don't really have a scientific term yet for what's happening with humans and animals, outside of saying that it's an inappropriate attachment. It's some type of attachment disorder that we have created. But a lot of times it comes out of trauma. Again, those of us who come from trauma, whether it was childhood trauma or trauma from relationships as we got older, maybe an abusive relationship, we do carry that with us into the next relationship. And that doesn't matter whether that relationship is with your horse or your dog. And if you're not honoring a boundary or setting boundaries, holding your own boundaries, you're just creating a new toxic relationship. And I find it interesting. My husband and I were talking about this last night. Cats. You rarely have a toxic relationship with a cat because they are so clear about their boundaries. They may come up to you and rub on you, and they'll want to be petted, and you can pet them. But then when you go up to them and you pet them without invitation, they might just smack you or bite you. Mm-hmm. They're very good about it, and we seem to be okay with it. But if our dogs did that, if our horses did that, we would not be okay with that. So it's an interesting dynamic. But I feel like when we don't know what we want, we have to know what we want before we can ask from them to give it to us. And we better be darn sure it's not something we could be providing our own selves. Happiness, self-love, awareness. Like, we can't ask the horse to carry the whole basket, all the goods, and then be mad at them when they do it. Mm-hmm. If we say, okay, you're the boss, you take care of me. Or how about this one? You saved my life. I hear that all the time. This dog or this horse saved my life. Now, in some cases, that's true, right? Like the horse literally saved your life, and that's awesome. But the emotional saving of a life, he gave me something to live for. You have put a lot of sticky, icky, human on your horse.
So that's a red flag. That person in inner healing needs more education, support. Look in. Okay. You said something the other day that I've not heard said before. You said that horses mirror and dogs.
Absorb. Dogs absorb it. They just take it on, and not in a toxic way. Like, that's why they're so great for PTSD and just people with emotional trauma. Dogs are great support. They really don't have a problem with all of our weird emotions, outside of when your behavior changes, their behavior changes. So it is bad for dogs in terms of you letting them get away with everything because you love them so much. That creates a
over the bed.
But just in terms of emotion, you can go cry on your dog every single day and he will still just want to be with you. But and he'll,
of course, not like that. So over the past many years, I have a friend named Kelly Scriver, and she is the first friend who cared enough, and she has the education and the professional training as a equine professional. Okay, with every equine therapy license you can get behind your name, that lady's got it. So when she first started introducing that my horses were mirroring something going on in me, in my mind, in my body, in my spirit, that I didn't want to talk about. I had repressed it. I don't want to talk about money right now. I don't want to talk about how I'm not organized. I don't want to talk about how I'm in such hot pursuit of my goal that I'm not spending enough time, quality time with my daughter. But a horse will call you out for that.
Right. That's right.
And we think, well, this horse just won't get in the trailer. What is wrong?
That's right. We want to blame the horse for all of it. And it's like, but you're not fixing the true root. And it's us. Yeah, absolutely us. And that's what I love about them. That's why they make great, they do great work in the prison system with rehabilitating people, because a dog won't tell on you. A dog will just curl up next to you and say, yeah, this is such a bummer. You want to go play ball? But a horse says, we have work to do, because I'm not just coming up to you ready to work. You got to earn this. And people have to then reflect inward and say, what's going on? And what is my part in this equation? And fix it. And you've changed the human, you change the horse. Unless you've just had so many rehearsed behaviors over and over again. And we've all seen that. The horses that are just going to take so much work to rehabilitate, they may never get back to having a job. They've just so far gone.
So that's our discussion tomorrow night with James Davison, because he's our equine behavior specialist at Stall High. He coaches every Wednesday in the mentor program. And I can't wait to share this stall talk with him, because he talks a lot about emotion, that rider has too much emotion involved in this relationship, false expectations, not looking within, not being willing to look within. And it can be scary until you feel the relief of it. And when you get that connection and you see the reward of the relationship, that's when it's okay. It's okay not to know everything. It's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to say, I could use some help.
Yes. Yeah, I think we forget as people that we can go through whatever we're going through, but also feel differently about it. That whatever you naturally feel about a circumstance, you're not stuck with that. There's a huge gamut of emotions, right? And when I find myself, especially if I'm getting frustrated with an employee or really anything, I will ask myself, wait, is it possible I could feel anything else besides frustrated? Anything different? And I'll try to inch my way up to a better perspective. But I just gotta, but if we just think we are the emotion, instead of we are not the emotion, we are the feeler of the emotion, then we can start to change. But if we're just mad and we're just gonna be mad and we're gonna go out to the barn and spend time by ourselves with our horse because we're just mad, it's like, you can still have the circumstance that caused you to be angry, but could you feel different? Can you let the anger go
Yes.
and find a way around it? And that's where that support and that coaching is so
Yes.
important.
And if you can't do it for yourself, if you are not at a place where you're willing to do it for yourself, do you truly love your horse? Is your horse worth it? Will you do it for your horse? Will you
Yep.
look within, take responsibility, and
Yep.
educate yourself just so that your horse can have a better quality of life?
Yeah. I think that should be another clinic that you do, like another mastermind. It's bring your horse, but we're going to work on ourselves.
Mhm. That's good. Kevin said something about don't mask the symptoms, and you were saying something about the whole industry not looking, the silent screaming of body language. Well, we're just buying more duct tape.
Yes.
We're putting bonnets on them, brain
Yep.
chains and bonnets, and a tighter hand. Let me just hold him a little more. Let me shape him a little more going into this first barrel. Let me finish this turn for him. It's just it's another piece of duct tape. It's another piece of duct tape. It's another piece of duct tape. It's another straight jacket. It's another pair of
Yep.
handcuffs. It's just constantly limiting that horse's natural range of motion and mentally
Bigger.
very
Yeah.
unhealthy.
Yeah. Well, think about the gal that didn't make it all the way through the weekend with her horse, and
Right.
how, that was really hard for her to, she just has so many layers piled up on top of what she's dealing with. But she looks at her horse and she has these problems, and it's this cycle of, she's walking on eggshells like we would in a toxic relationship, right? She's walking on eggshells. He doesn't want to go to the right. That's okay. That's all right. We're going to go to the left right now. And then all of a sudden there's an incident, and now she's really dealing with the problem. And then she'll get back in line again, and there'll come this quiet time before the next storm where you think everything's going okay, and then you start to feel it, that tension, and you start walking on eggshells again. And it's just this cycle that we go through over and over again, repeating it. And it's those quiet times where we build the, oh my gosh, I love him so much, and then we that
he's so pretty, and he sniffs my hair, and he just makes me feel loved sometimes. Now, Punk Carter has a famous line, and he has said it so many times over the years. I've heard him say this, and it's good words of wisdom from Punk Carter. A horse will mistake your kindness for weakness and all over you.
Yep. I believe that. And I also think that we think the sniffing us means one thing in what it's like when my husband comes up and sniffs my neck and chills run down my back, and he goes, "What are you wearing?" Right? That's not what my horse is saying when he comes into my space and smells me. That's not, that there's a boundary that he crossed, and he needs to back out of that boundary. And we talked about that with my horse on Saturday, and it's like, oh my gosh, I did the thing. And so I had to get him out of my space, and had to walk around with a strong presence that day.
Yes, it's an energy. It's a posture. It's an expectation. Matt said in class last night, when he is talking to his child, like encouraging him before a ball game, he's going to get down close and talk to him in a soft voice. When that kid's in trouble, Matt's posture changes. He's going to stand up straight, and his voice elevates a little bit, and listen, son, we're going to have a talk. Very clear body language to go with the communication, and horses rely on our body language.
Yep. And they rely on us to understand theirs. We cannot have one-sided communication. It has to flow. And that's where we need more education about body language and what our horses are trying to tell us. It doesn't mean like my horse saying, "No, thanks. I don't want to work today. I'm really tired. It was a long trip, and Friday was a big deal. And well, I had my teeth, and I'm not feeling it today." It's like, okay, I hear you, but we still got to go through it. But, I think a lot of times we go, "Oh, he doesn't want to." And so we let it go, and we just told our horse that we understand the body language, and this is the behavior from me you can expect when you give me that body language.
They train us.
Yeah.
They end up training us instead of us training them. So
Well,
absolutely.
it's both, because you trained me how to respond to you, and I have now trained a new behavior in you, and that's refusal. I trained you to refuse me. So it's not that that we're not training our horse, we're just training the wrong thing. We're always training, not just when we want to. We're always teaching something. The horse is always learning.
Okay. All right. Let me hand it
Imagine,
to Martin for a second. Martin,
yeah,
this is
imagine if you pushed all of this energy into a relationship with another human, your partner.
Yes. Yeah.
Imagine how the marriage would be if you paid attention to subtle facial expressions and body language.
Yeah.
Or the words or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Or your children, never mind. Either way, right? Like you're training your spouse, you're training your children. With your children, it's your responsibility to actually raise them. And if you raise them to refusal, then they'll give you refusal, right?
Yeah.
As an example.
Yes.
Right? You can totally train your children to disrespect the heck out of you all the way to.
Yep. I agree.
Yeah. Anyway, so the society as we live in right now has gone and swung, especially in the urban centers, way over into this wokeness, which just is going to probably cause the society to fall to crap.
We're not there yet, right?
Well, we're on the way, right? We are training the next generation to become so dysfunctional that they can't even behave through life.
Right.
So the rural society, especially horse people and people like you, Julie, are there to try and hold up the sort of thing to help the society to realize that if we go into this wrong, misplaced kindness, right? That's what I would call it, misplaced kindness. It actually breeds dysfunction.
That's very well said. I'm taking notes.
It's really not just important. I feel like I have a sense of duty because of my relationship with dogs and the people who are on the other end of the leash. We talked about this, Kendra, that the animals that we deal with in their people, that's the conduit. The animals are the conduit. People are the mission, right? And we are in a perfect place in our fields to relate to these people. And what did I tell you? You cannot educate those you alienate. And so those people who come to me, I had a guy come with a big chain on his German Shepherd puppy, and I saw him get out of the car. And I said to one of my staff as he was walking towards the building for his dog's eval, I'd never met them before. I said, I don't like him right off the bat. I don't like the way he carries himself. I don't like the way he's got this big chain on a 4-month-old puppy. And my front desk person at the time said, remember, we can't educate those we alienate. And I had to swallow my own words, but it was true. I treated the man kindly, but firmly. I set my boundaries. I even told him so much as, I'm not sure you'll be happy here with me as your instructor. And he asked me why, which was a brilliant question. And I said, it's just, well, okay, if I can be honest, your choke chain collar is on backwards and too long. And someone instructed you that way, and you give me this feedback like you know it all already. And his wife was with them, and she said, no, he's just like that. He's just that way. We want to come here. This is where we want to come. And so we just had to go over the boundaries and what was to be expected. And they have been lovely clients. The dog's 3.5 years old now, and they have a wonderful dog. And they were ready to do the work. But when we tell ourselves, nope, I can't deal with people like that. We should really, it's our responsibility to find a way to deal with people like that, because they own a horse or they own a dog. And to save that relationship, to save that person, even really, they need to know how to.
Wow. So good. Taylor saying, Kendra, LOL, flashback to Sunday. Yes, ma'am, it is. And it flashes me back also, just immediate. And it challenges me, Julie, to be a better communicator. The beautiful writer that came in and she chose not to come back. How am I responsible for how I communicated or my lack of communication? I should have asked more questions. That flashes me back immediately when I saw the horse unload from the trailer. He was real high and mighty and watchy and looking, and basically instead of her leading him to the barn, he led her. So walking in front, head very high, and instead of a stud chain on him properly, the lead rope was looped through on his nose. And just like that choke chain being on backwards and too long, that's what I'm thinking, like that is not even effective. And if you have to use it, it's just going to choke him down, but it's going to take a minute to do that. And by the time that plan is even effective, it's too late. He's already kicked somebody in the head or run over you. And stepped on your toes, broken your toes or your nose. And it's very delayed communication and not effective. So see, I was already adding things up. Should I have said something before I got my baseline done? But that was my first impression.
Well, I don't disagree. I want to defend the horse correctly just for a second, because when he came off the trailer and he was the way he was, he's been trained to be that way. He's not just being that way. This is their relationship. This is all about who they are as a couple. He leads the way. Now, let me tell you, he doesn't want that job. She's just not doing it. So he's saying, look, if you're not going to do it, I guess I'll do it, but I'm terrified. I don't know. If you don't know, how am I supposed to know? And then on top of that, if she's nervous coming in because it's a new place and all of that, well, then he's like, and not only that, something is going to come out of the corner and kill us. I can tell because you're nervous. And so this poor horse has rehearsed this behavior time and time again. It is in his mind, it is the only thing that keeps him safe, because she doesn't keep him safe. Her relationship with him doesn't breathe out safety and security for him. There are no boundaries. He's just got to make this work for himself. And she is making excuses for her horse.
So I'm curious, guys, if you are watching on a live stream, maybe you're watching on YouTube right now or TikTok or one of our Facebook channels, or maybe you're catching this as a replay at some point in time, and you're starting to look in the mirror and you're starting to say, wait a minute, is that me I'm looking at? Is she talking about me? Does that describe your horse? Because there's an epidemic happening. This is not a single isolated event. It happens at every horse event you're going to go to, even at the professional level. So if that is you and you're ready to look, you're ready for support, you're ready for someone to explain to you, if that's not working, how do you communicate so that it is successful and respectful? I want you to be safe. I want your horse to be safe. Like you mentioned earlier, Julie, that you literally are loving your dog to death. I've seen it happen generation after generation after generation in the horse industry. People get a horse that's fancy on paper. He's pretty. There's all this potential and promise. Things go poorly. And when their child is in a hospital bed and that horse is irreparable, the horse goes to the pack.
Yep.
And that's not fair. You have to understand from the get-go, please get training before you take on more than you're educated or experienced to handle.
Yeah.
It sounds good on paper. Like buy this one fancy horse one time and you won't have to buy another one for 15 years, when there might need to be 5 horses in that 15 or 15 horses in that 15-year stretch to learn from different levels.
You have to love them enough to lead them. It can't just be love. You have to love them enough to lead them. That's the true love, is that I'm going to learn all I can. And you know what? It's true in the human relationship. I am going to learn so much about myself and who I am that you don't have to fix me. And if you learn all you can about who you are, we can actually have a relationship. And that's really what I want to tell my dog. And it's really what I want to tell my horse. I don't need you to fix me. I'm going to fix myself. Here's what I do need you to do. And I'm going to teach my horse what I need him to do. And then that's the job I'm going to give him. And those are the behaviors I want him to rehearse, not the behaviors that get us both in trouble.
Yeah. And put everybody else in danger around you.
Correct. Yep.
Ouch.
Yep.
Like, ouch. This hurts.
Yeah, it does.
But
Could we
it's
bring
really
this into schools and parenting? You know, how is it possible? How is it possible that people can have children without understanding what's going to happen next?
I know. What an epidemic there we have, but that's a whole different podcast.
Yep. And we have now teachers who are not understanding this either.
Right.
Because they're not taught this. They are taught some other theories.
I struggled in school because at the time I was not diagnosed, but I was colorblind. And so I really struggled with artsy kindergarten learning, like posters on the wall when you've got a green A on a red background and I don't see what you're talking about. So I think I'm stupid. And as I grew up, simply a teacher rolling their eyes or making a sigh when I'm asking a question was enough to shut me up and never speak again in class. You know, and I struggled all through my education, finding my support at the animal shelter. I loved volunteering there. I would skip school so I could go to the shelter. I'd skip school to go ride my horse. You know, it was very difficult as a kid because teachers don't understand their own body language and how to manage their own frustrations, because that job's a hard job.
Yes. For low pay.
Yeah.
Huge job, little pay.
It's hard. You know, they go because they have a heart for it. But we're only teaching teachers to teach, but we're not teaching them to read body language and really work on communication. And the classrooms are so big and all those things. You know, it's hard. It's really hard. We are fortunate enough to be able to work with people and their animals on a much smaller scale and really make a difference, really hit home. There's not enough of us doing it yet, but.
Oh, but that's why we have Stall High.
Yeah, I feel like Stall High is about to just get that ball rolling.
Yes.
I would like to do a product plug.
Go for it, Martin. What you got?
We in fact have something in our store that was created by a chiropractor who understood psychotherapy. And he created a product. One is called M Water and the other one is called Core Water. And the M Water is loaded with joy and the Core Water is loaded with get your act together. And
I need both of those.
The M stood for mysterious, magical, and modifying. Anyway, it comes in a pint size, and you only use a teaspoon at a time, teaspoon a day. So you have 100 servings in it. And so the M Water is for people who just like to be out of their pain, emotional pain. It just raises the joy level in life. The Core Water is for people who realize that they really need to raise their game a lot.
Explain to me again what's in it.
Vibration, nothing. It's vibrational. You know, the words that Julie just spoke transmitted to you the emotion that's behind her life of experience, right? And just transmitting that changed you already. Right? We are able to push this sort of information into water. Water is the nature's memory device. It remembers. Homeopathy documents this, and other ways we have documented that water does remember what it's been through. So you can actually program water, and when you drink even just a small amount of it, like you take a teaspoon, put it into a glass of water, and it resonates throughout, and you drink it, and it does its number. And
Hey, anybody who thinks this is hokey, I'm telling you, I personally have read a couple of different studies on this, and it is amazing. It is not hokey. It is real science.
yeah, it's a real thing. And we have this, and we do have that. A quick story. A friend and a business associate was in my house, and he was borrowing my stock room to do some video recordings. And halfway through it, he got thirsty, and he saw a bottle on the shelf. He cracked it open, and it was the core water, and he drank half of it, half of a pint, which would be, let's just say, 50 days worth. In the next 3 weeks, his dysfunctional relationship with the female ended. His children, his estranged son relationship repaired. He changed his diet, and he decided to move. All of that. Wow. Because this stuff will hand you your thing on a silver platter.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and it does sound really weird. Now, I followed some TikTok things last year talking about the power of water, how it absorbs things. And, it's, I don't, there are things I don't understand. There are things that I can't explain. Okay. I am a Christ believing Christian.
Sure. Holy water. Try that.
Well,
yeah.
I still respect, like, God made science. This is his earth. This is his creation. Other people take credit for it. And there are some things that are not taught or explained in a traditional, certainly a Southern Baptist environment that I was raised in. So my TikToks that I was watching talked about having a glass of water near you when you are doing your prayer journal, or when you're reading Bible verses, or when you're making declarations and decreeing things that are positive, that it will positively charge that water. Well, I'm not an idiot to that. So I'm like, well, I'm curious. Yeah, I definitely want to know more about
Let
that.
me say it this way. Whatever you pray over will benefit from that.
Yep.
And if you pray over a dog, he'll benefit, and the glass of water will benefit, and the horse will benefit. I don't care. Your sister will benefit if you pray over that.
Martin, how do we get in touch with your product?
There's a link.
Lori is going to post a link.
Okay, great.
life-enthusiast.com. It should come through Stall High, and you can certainly find my phone number there, and you can certainly phone me and talk to me about life and other things. We do have an entire category dealing with these subtle vibrational things.
Awesome.
We don't
love
talk
that
enough in the horse world.
In any aspect. We're not talking about vibration and energy and motion and all of those things. Like, I'm so excited to even hear someone else. I felt like I could come out of the closet about what I believe.
Yes. And you were here the other night, and you were like, I've been told so many times that I was doing things wrong. And Kendra, you said I have good hands, and you said, I found my people. And I was like, yeah, hon, you did. Welcome home.
Yeah, that was the first thing I said. And even at Pilates last night, she said, well, how did it go? I said, she says I have good hands. I just need to work on my hinge.
Wow.
Yeah.
So good. Kendra, give your horse some of that water before you run. Well, Kevin, okay. If Martin is saying I can take a small amount, I'm wondering if I could just put it in a syringe and put it in her mouth.
I bet if you put it in her mouth, you change your.
Oh, hey, listen, we sell devices. I mean, I have a very tiny of it right here in this glass.
We talk about those.
This is the tiny thing I call the crystal pearl. We have them in a bigger size called crystal cupcake. You can put that into the horse's trough, and it'll structure the water. and
What?
it will, oh, 1 second.
It'll filter the bad stuff out.
Here is a stack of things. The cupcakes on the bottom, the pearls, we have 3 sizes, large, medium, and small.
Mhm.
And it's all here. We sell them either separate or in all this one piece. This is a thingy that we call the receiver, which it just resonates happy vibes. So I have that sitting just over my windowsill. And anyway, that stuff, when put in water, will act as an eraser of badness. It will release the distortions. You know, the opposite of the prayer is, I don't know. I mean, ultimately it's evil, right? But even at a smaller dose, it still is destructive.
Mhm.
And we can release all of that, erase it. I'll give you an example like this. Nice white wall, the side of a building. Some idiot comes to it with a bunch of spray cans and makes a real mess of it. Now you have an ugly graffiti on the wall that just makes you feel like, oh, just, I don't know. I don't want to throw heavy emotions on it, but it's just the building has been raped.
Mhm.
And so these things are erasers. They will whitewash this thing or spray it off back to clean wall. The M water and the core water, they are more like putting a pretty picture, a wall mural on it.
Mhm. I like
And
it.
you said,
Like-
you were explaining those pearls that we can put in our water bottle, and Shelley's asking how long do they last? They never wear out. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. This is a ceramic. You would have to smash it with a hammer to destroy it.
But it doesn't lose its erasing ability. So you
No,
were
it's a-
talking about our public water and how it's treated so chemically and how that's killing things that are good inside of us. So when we had that discussion the first time, it was more of a clinical discussion. Now you're making it real easy for us to understand, like, listen, it takes away the ugly stuff, it brings in the pretty stuff.
Yeah.
But yes, I haven't ordered mine yet. You're going to get my entire paycheck, Martin. I have so many things to order from your website, but I do. I'm very excited to be learning as I
Yeah,
go
it's a
and
discovery.
learning how to remove the blocks, things that I feel like used to bottleneck me, used to hold me back. I
Mhm.
would just be so frustrated. Like, why do I have this amazing dream and vision and I'm willing to work for it? Why is it not happening for me? And there was a lot of work to do. And
Yeah,
still,
some of it is emotional injuries from childhood. I mean, Julie highlighted it, you know, you grow up with your stuff and those are your blocks. Each one of us has them. I had to deal with mommy issue, daddy issue, brother issue, teacher issue. I mean, I had it all too.
yeah.
Mhm.
My brother made a comment the other day. I put a post of me as a child sitting on my dad's horse, and I've got this big old ball cap on, and he's posted a picture of him wearing that ball cap. It was his. And he was like, yeah, nice cap. And I was like, I was probably only wearing it because my head was hemorrhaging. And I remember Dad had to put like a wad of shop towels on the back of my head, and he sucked down a trucker cap and put it on because he'd told my brother to saddle my horse for me. I was too little, and he was mad about it. So when he slung that saddle over real fast, I was hugged on the opposite side, and this buckle, the cinch buckle, hit me right on top of the head. And you know our heads bleed a lot. I still have a scar from that. Yeah, big brother issues, got him. I'm getting grief about it now. We have a good relationship now, but this has been incredible. Julie, we'd love to have you back. We'd love to continue the discovery, the discussion. I would
Great.
love to just continue learning and connecting the dots. And for anyone
Me-
who's interested, where can we find more copies of your book, Dog Church?
You know, somebody told me the other day that Amazon was out, and then I think one of the participants at the clinic said she got on there and she was able to get one. So, I mean, really, if anybody wants to contact me directly, I can give Lori I think maybe she has the email that she could just put that there, and they could just email me and I'll sign a copy for them and send it out.
Okay. Yes, I definitely need a copy for my Aunt Patty because she is a
Yeah.
dog person.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, we'll get one for Aunt Patty.
sign
That
it,
really blessed.
Patty.
Yeah,
Martin,
Julie,
thank-
Julie,
Mhm.
I would
Yeah.
like to interview you for Life Enthusiast podcast. Contact me.
Okay, great.
Excellent.
Wow. Thank you. I'd be honored.
Thank you, Martin, for supporting the show. Guys, if you want to find out more about Martin's expertise, things about your health that maybe you haven't been able to pinpoint yet,
Look for the category that's in home, water and food devices.
home, water, and food devices. Okay. Thank you so much. This was just fantastic. And Julie, thanks for becoming part of our community. So I'll see you tonight at 6 o'clock in the Mentor.
I'll be there. I will be. Thanks,
All right.
everybody.